Greetings, drag queens and wild riders. So Transformers Legacy seems to be doing well for itself, finally allowing some much needed modern representation of non-80s characters, giving them room to breathe and providing a cathartic statement, showing off how these non-G1 characters are just as legitimate as the 80s ones.
Unless you're Transformers animated, apparently.
And I've decided to commemorate this awesome fandom-unifying toy line showing that not everything has to be about the G1 characters by reviewing two G1 characters. So it appears that one of the unexpected missions of Legacy is providing us a whole new Stunticon team. And as we all know, the promise of new Stunticons comes with a new Menasor. And if you didn't know that, now you do. And with that out of the way, let's have a good time with some bad boys with Legacy Dragstrip and Wild Rider. They belong to a team of Decepticons called the Stunticons, a group of 5 scandalous bad bots made up of sleek, nasty, fast cars and a giant gas-guzzling truck. And they all combine to form Menasor. Those are the basics for none of you who needed it. I'll begin with Dragstrip first, and I'll have you know that researching this character led to these images. Fortunately, none of that research is relevant, so let's jump straight into the toy. Let's see whether or not this figure is a drag. In the looks department, Dragstrip is very reminiscent of their 80s cartoon self, but without the doofiness. Let's be honest, the cartoon design for Dragstrip is kinda dumb, while Legacy Dragstrip is a lot more mindful about its proportions and shape. It gives them this physique that might have looked a bit dopey otherwise. This mustard maniac's boasting a most yellow color scheme second only to Nova Storm. It does sort of smell of Sunbow animation cost saving, but I guess there aren't a whole lot of yellow Decepticons, so I'll be forgiving because of that. Plus, the source material looked like this, so I can't be mad. And neither can you. Adore the exposed silvery engine guts on full display, sitting in the open compartment like a piloted mech suit. I can imagine Krang sitting in this thing. The shoulders are glossed up with a row of some pompous power tires, and they have some cool red lines going down his forearms. They do a good job at breaking the mostly yellow color, like red and black islands on a mustard ocean. No wrist swivel, but the arms can move around freely despite the statements being made by the shoulders. The same can be said for the legs too. Despite being a combiner limb, there ain't nary opposability sacrifice to be had. The legs are decked out with some pretty impressive undercarriage sculpting with rods and such, and I don't know what more you really need with some legs. This figure has huge shoulder pylons by their head, making for a lovely silhouette. I know the original design didn't have these, which means it's illegal to compliment this, but I'm a rebel, you see. And what a great head sculpt, shining a too cool for you visor and baby wheeljack ears. The head is hollow, much like mine, but there is a reason for this, so please muster up some patience. Lastly, they come with these 2 purple gravito gun things, which I'm told are supposed to manipulate gravity itself, either tearing others apart or crushing them like a trash compactor. Terrifying stuff. And the toy just feels overall super good and solid. It just does a great job and pulls it off like it's the most natural thing in the world. I know there's a bit of a pressure to end these segments with a catchy zinger, but I can't do that every single time. Do you know how many Transformers characters there are? The transformation is super clever and feels so next level. It pulls off a ton of twists like moving the shoulders upwards and rotating the chest 180 degrees. It's a fantastic, bold reinvention of what came before. Dragstrip transforms into, get this, a race car. Can you believe it? I can't. And oh yeah. This is a slender, stunning, sexy, long, low to the ground legend of an alt mode. This is where most of the paintwork strikes, and it's there where it matters. With the darker goldish yellow, the flavorful red stripes, and the delicious silver engine. The paint really highlights the beautiful sculpted mechanical detailings back here. Full disclosure, everything I know about racing comes from the Cars movies and Talladega Nights, so I have the slightest feeling I'm not an expert on race cars. With that said, this does give off the spirit of the Tyrrell P34 six-wheeler. The hollow head makes a return, this time posing as the driver's seat. Yeah, his head is pretty much just out there on full display on a Tuesday night. But this is probably the most acceptable form of visible head syndrome on any Earth mode I've ever seen. It's unobtrusive, a bit funny, and at least it's better than the DX9 one. Also, a tiny piece of the chest engine is visible in the seat area, but who cares? If you're going to be a pedant about all the small things, you're going to lose sight of the grand picture. That was the moral of the song All the Small Things by Blink-182. The only thing about this that could be considered a fault comes with the breaking of the color and smoothness of the slope with the front hinge. However, this is necessary for the transformation, so I can definitely overlook this. There are 2 weapon ports for this mode that can fit their gravity blasters, so now they can absent-mindedly alter one of the fundamental forces of the whole universe while on the go. And for being so low to the ground, they can roll very nicely. All things considered, this is a really astounding alt mode that'll zoom along the fast lane straight into your heart. And the figure in general is a rather elegant embodiment of their electric elegance, or lack thereof, I suppose. Dragnificent. Now on to Wild Rider, and let me tell you, this guy, you don't want to cross him, because he's crazy, you see. Wild, even. He's like the Jared Leto of the group, in that he's so insanely insufferable that he's a danger to everyone around him. But unlike Jared Leto, he's not completely terrible. In fact, I'd say this makes for a radical robo representation, all things considered. A little something to get out of the way first, the instructions in the box try to peer pressure you into transforming his backpack like this, with the sides all splayed out. Now, these parts do make transforming it into robot mode easier, but he looks like he's wearing the world's ugliest novelty crab backpack. Fortunately, it clamps back together to make a standard car hood. I have no idea why the instructions don't point this out, but whatever, it's one of life's great mysteries. It makes his backpack way less obtrusive, and while it's still a full car hood on his back, that is what Wild Rider is supposed to look like. Like Dragstrip, there is some deviance from the cartoon design, like how the torso area is made smaller and less rectangular, possibly to accommodate the combined mode. But overall, it is a good looking depiction of his robot mode, and they've Easter egged some subtle design references onto him. For instance, he's got the ab vents, the octagon things on his thighs, the fully noticeable leg tires, and he's even got the arrow pointing at 2 lines deal on the side of his thighs, like the cartoon model. That's insane. Oh, wild attention to detail. The arms interrupt the moody silver and black with a stinging red like a healthy tomato, which adds a sprinkle of approved color variety, keeping the palette from cruising down Dullsville. I don't know how many times I can keep finding different ways of saying the articulation is good, but like, it is. Modern Transformers have been doing such a great job of having a consistently good range of posability, it's easy to lose sight of that. If I had to nitpick anything, I suppose the thighs are a bit long compared to the lower legs, but they do
give sass, kick ass.
Also, I guess he's kind of a bit more ordinary than Dragstrip. Arms are made out of the car side, the legs are the back of the car. It's another rendition of an age-old recipe, but that doesn't stop it from satisfying the taste buds. Moving on to the head, look at his red face. He just looks so enraged. Maybe he's mad that Hasbro took away his light piping. The expression mixed in with the red makes him look like he's absolutely boiling. Don't get in his way, or he'll kill ya! Especially when you notice that his ears make him look like Shrek. Finally, he comes with these 2 blasters that are very similar to Dragstrips, but these are scattershot blasters, which, let's be honest, make no difference. Not much to say, but I'm always gonna love some silver paint. I know I've joked around a tiny bit, but Wild Rider is still a cool looking robot. He poses well, looks nice, feels good, and what more can you really ask from a character who turns into a leg? Transforming Wild Rider is fine, but not exactly the innovative thrill that Dragstrip showed us. It's similar to Combiner Wars Dead End or Titan's Return Chrome Dome, which I personally love, but the tightness of the legs do make folding them in a bit inconvenient. On top of that, slotting the hood into place always makes me nervous for some reason. That might just be a me problem though. That's a pretty wild looking rider. So this unlicensed sports car alt mode appears rather groovy, a little bit sexy, and all the best kinds of mean. It's got a similar color scheme as the Adam West Batmobile, so bonus points for me. And this alt mode catches my heart specifically for the extra aesthetic detailing like the silver painted hubcaps, and the combination of charcoal grayish black and the mysterious red windows just looks so unrelentingly badass. It also checks off having a prominent Decepticon logo on the very front, which I kinda wish was outlined, but is still cool. And there's some heavy sculpted attention given to the back with some ridge lines, hexagonal weapon ports, and some tail light details showing off extra definition. This also goes for the front as well, with the angles and line work making up a bumper, as well as some side flanked vent lines where the pop-out headlights would be. Only 2 weapon ports for this mode, but that doesn't stop the weaponizing fun. I'll say the only legitimate flaw with this vehicle mode is the back's ability to plug into the rest of it. There's always going to be this really thin gap on display here, but it barely makes any kind of difference. So yeah, Wild Rider is a wildly good car. It looks so menacing and cool, and once we have the whole team together, it's gonna be real rad having a squad of evil cars. I guess that's one of the reasons the Stunticons rule. They represent an interesting shift in the Transformers brand and how in 1985, Autobots didn't just have to be cars anymore, and Decepticons didn't just have to be planes or guns or cassette equipment anymore. You can have good cars who fight bad cars, who then become a large super robot. And doesn't that get the imagination going? So yeah, real stoked to have these. Dragstrip is way better than I could have predicted, and this is actually my first Wild Rider toy ever. I never got the Combiner Wars version, who was named Breakneck for some reason. I generally don't mind name changes in Transformers, but I already have such a hard time telling the Stunticons apart. And then they go and give 2 of them extremely similar names? So I'm glad they bypassed the trademark issues with his name by hitting the spacebar. Looking at these legacy lads, these are super satisfying Stunticons. It might seem like I much prefer Dragstrip to Wild Rider, mainly because I do, but Wild Rider's a fine, serviceable, decent enough version of the character whose only job was to not absolutely screw up for when it inevitably gets repurposed into Breakdown. So mission accomplished. These are honestly both independently satisfying figures. You don't really even have to pre-order the entire rest of the team to have a good time. I mean, I did, but you don't have to. I'll go into further detail on how they incorporate into Menasor once the whole team's been released, but for now, these 2 are the ones that are available, and they won't cost you an arm and a leg. You get it? Happy Halloween.